All right, baby boy is down for a nap. I'm in our downstairs kitchen, so the light down here is less than ideal, but I don't want to film upstairs because Josh is working from home today and I don't want to disturb him. So this will have to do. Welcome to the video. I'm so excited to summarize for you guys everything that I did last year to prepare for my frozen embryo transfer, because it's going to be the same stuff that I'm going to do next year for my frozen embryo transfer number 2. I mentioned this on my Instagram story a few days ago that I'm going to be doing this video for you guys. I really wanted to summarize everything that I did to prepare for my frozen embryo transfer, even though I did a few vlogs last year leading up to my transfer, and those vlogs consisted of things that I was doing for my health and my mental health to help prepare my body for the transfer. So instead of making you guys like watch 3 or 4 videos that are vlogs to try to figure out what I did, I wanted to summarize everything that I did in this video. Now, the things that I did for my frozen embryo transfer, they're very simple, they're super basic, so hopefully you get some ideas and maybe some of the things that I mentioned you can incorporate into your daily habits to help prepare your mind and your body for your transfer. Now, I do want to start off this video by saying this and just get this out of the way, that we can do these things I'm about to mention to you guys, but it's not a guarantee. And I know you guys know that already, but just a reminder that you could eat all the healthy fertility boosting foods, you can exercise every day, you can do meditation for your mind and your mental health, you can do all these things, but at the end of the day, your transfer is either going to stick or it's not. It's either going to work or it's not. I mean, I think these things help, but at the end of the day, it's kind of a flip of a coin, whether it works or it doesn't work. So I do want to remind you guys that if you've been through a failed transfer before, it is not your fault. It is what it is. There's a lot of factors involved in a transfer. There's a lot of things that can go wrong. And actually, most of the things that can go wrong are out of our hands. They're out of our provider's hands too. It is what it is. If it fails, it wasn't meant to be. If it sticks, wonderful, it's a miracle. But I think we can do some things that are really important for our bodies and our minds to help the embryo stick, but it's just not a guarantee. Also, it's the afternoon, so of course I have to have my protein iced coffee. I just did an Instagram reel on how I make my iced coffee, so go check that out if you have not checked that out yet. Very simple how I make my protein iced coffee, but the best protein, the best vegan protein powder is from First Form. I'll put the link down below. And by the way, if you're brand new here, welcome. I upload every Sunday morning, 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, all about living healthy, IVF, fertility health. It's a lot of fun, so welcome if you're brand new. If you're a returning subscriber watching, thank you so much for watching, and I hope this video helps. So I will put those, I think 3 or 4 video series that I did last year on what I was doing to prepare for my frozen embryo transfer. I'll link those vlogs down below so you guys can check those out if you haven't already. But if you are looking at a transfer soon and you want the nitty gritty and the down to earth, what I did, the simple stuff I did to prepare for my frozen embryo transfer, then here we go. So of course, the top thing that I focused on was diet. I'm a firm believer that whatever you put in your body is really going to affect your health, and food is medicine to our bodies. So I really tried to incorporate every single day fertility boosting foods. So I've done a lot of nutrition videos in the past telling you guys what foods I'm eating to boost fertility, to help fertility health. So I'll link a couple of those videos down below. A couple of them are like full days of eating, and that's kind of how I like to show you guys what I've been eating on a daily basis to help boost fertility. But the main foods that I really focused on are foods high in omega-3s, because studies show that the more omega-3s you have in your diet, the better your fertility health is. So omega-3 foods like nuts and seeds and salmon and small fish like sardines are all really high in omega-3s. I also focused on trying to eat a lot of foods high in antioxidants, especially blueberries. Blueberries is probably the #1 superfood I can think of off the top of my head that is really easy to buy in the store. I always buy them frozen because they're flash frozen at the height of their ripeness, and so frozen blueberries are actually, in my opinion, going to be just as healthy, if not healthier, than fresh blueberries. And you can do a lot with frozen blueberries. Throw them in smoothies. I always throw them in my fertility smoothie bowls. I have not had a fertility smoothie bowl in a really long time. I need to make those again. I used to post all that stuff a lot last year when I was preparing for my transfer. But other foods high in antioxidants are going to be your green leafy vegetables. Those are also high in iron to help build uterine lining. Other foods high in antioxidants, goji berries, pomegranates. Just Google foods high in antioxidants and pick and choose what you'd like to eat. And then foods really high in iron, like I already mentioned, green leafy vegetables, dried fruit like raisins and figs. So again, just Google foods high in iron and you will get a list on Google, which is so nice. You can just Google this stuff and incorporate those foods in your daily eating and your daily meals. So stemming off of diet, the other thing that I really like to do every morning was drink my big glass of warm lemon water. Some research does show that warm lemon water will help the IVF medications get more like readily absorbed in the body. I don't know how that works, but I do know that some studies have shown that warm lemon water really helps the body absorb the IVF medications. So I tried to do warm lemon water every morning, and I really just made it a habit. And I did notice that when I started my day off with my warm lemon water, my digestion was really good. I didn't suffer from any bloating or water retention, so that also helps. Now that I'm breastfeeding, I'm like hyper focused on my milk supply, although in a later video, I'll touch on this. I'm actually now looking into weaning Quinn off breast milk because I want my life back. Like, I'm really burned out with pumping and he's not interested in breastfeeding anymore. I really wanted to try to give him breast milk still. He's over 6 months now, but I'm over pumping. And so now I'm like, do I keep doing this? Whatever. But as of a month ago and earlier, I was hyper focused on my milk supply, boosting my milk supply. And so instead of warm lemon water every morning, I have electrolytes in my water. And sometimes I'll still add lemon to the water, but I just drink my water with electrolytes in it for now. And then when I stop breastfeeding, I'll go back to my warm lemon water. So after I would drink my lemon water, I would have my coffee. Now with the caffeine, I think everybody's a little bit different on how they process caffeine, how their bodies tolerate caffeine. But for me, what I tried to do was stay under 200 milligrams of caffeine leading up to the transfer. I started doing this like about a month before my transfer date to try to get my body like off a lot of that caffeine I was consuming, because I'm like a 3 to 4 cup a day coffee drinker. I love coffee and I have a high stress nursing job, and before my transfer I was working full-time. I work part-time now that I have Quinn, but there's always a lot going on in my life, and with my high stress job and just lack of sleep, I'm kind of a caffeine junkie. So I was trying to get myself either off caffeine or lower it. I couldn't get myself off it entirely, so what I did was I just had the goal of keeping myself under 200 milligrams of caffeine, which is about 1.5 cups of coffee a day. And I did that because it's also pregnancy safe. So I figured that since 200 milligrams of caffeine is still safe for pregnancy, that should be my goal for before the transfer, leading up to the transfer. If I wanted more coffee, I would just do decaf, and it would kind of like trick my brain into thinking I was drinking real coffee. So that would be kind of like my morning routine in terms of drinks: warm lemon water, about 1.5 cups of coffee, and then at night I really tried to stay away from alcohol. And I didn't really do this until about, it really was right before the transfer. Maybe like 2 weeks before the transfer, I was off alcohol entirely. And the reason why I did that was to get my body used to not drinking my wine at night. I love a glass of wine while I cook. I don't really cook anymore because I'm in charge of Quinn's bedtime. So Josh cooks dinner while I am doing Quinn's bedtime stuff. Before Quinn, I loved to drink my glass of wine while I cooked, or just have a glass of wine to unwind at night. So I wanted to develop like a new routine of not having wine and try to find substitutes for my wine. Like pomegranate juice is a great substitute for a glass of wine. It is obviously not the same, but I wanted to kind of get into a routine of not having that wine. And also, you know, alcohol is highly inflammatory, and the liver is responsible for hormone balances. If we're overloading the liver with alcohol, I just feel like it will inhibit us from getting pregnant. And I'm not sure that it will really make a huge difference in the transfer, but I just wanted to give my body every single chance to absorb that embryo and have like balanced hormones. So I got off alcohol about 2 weeks before my transfer. I kind of had like an F it mentality the day before my transfer, and I was like, you know what, this is my last night to have a drink. And so Josh and I went to one of the local bars by our apartment. We walked there and had dinner and had a couple drinks like the night before my transfer. And I'm actually very glad I did that because of course my transfer worked. I had to be off alcohol for a long time. So I don't really know if like being entirely off alcohol all the way up to your transfer really does make a difference or not, but I like to think it maybe will or can. So yeah, pomegranate juice is probably my favorite substitute for a glass of wine at night. But the other thing that I did was I drank raspberry leaf tea, and that was also a pretty good substitute for my wine because at least I was sipping on something. So raspberry leaf tea does a lot for female fertility, but the reason why I was drinking it was because I wanted to increase my uterine lining, and that's one thing that raspberry leaf tea does help you do, is it does help increase uterine lining, especially if you drink a couple cups a day. So I started drinking that about 3 weeks before my transfer. Maybe it was a month. It wasn't like super long before my transfer. About a month to 3 weeks before my transfer, I started drinking raspberry leaf tea every single night. I think most grocery stores have it now, but when I started drinking it over a year ago, a lot of the grocery stores around my area didn't have it, and I had to buy it online. So I will put that link down below. So I think those are the main things I did in terms of diet. Eating fertility fertility boosting foods every day, my warm lemon water every morning, limiting my caffeine to under 200 milligrams a day, cutting out alcohol, and drinking at least a cup of raspberry leaf tea every single night. Next thing I did, which I was very strict on, was I took supplements every day. Now I did a whole supplement video, which I'll link down below for you guys if you haven't seen it yet, but all the supplements that I took leading up to my frozen embryo transfer and why I took them. So for the purposes of this video, I'm just gonna list them, but if you wanna know why I took all these supplements, go check that video out. It's about like 10 to 15 minute long video, so it's not super long, and I went over why and the purposes of each supplement. But I took all of these supplements every night religiously. I didn't wanna skip any of them because I knew that especially the folic acid needed time to build up in my system, and folic acid is probably the most important supplement to take if you're trying to get pregnant, because studies have shown that if you have enough folic acid in your system, your chances of conceiving are a little bit higher than somebody who doesn't have enough folic acid in their system. And folic acid is essential to a growing fetus. So in my mind, if I got pregnant, it would just kind of help keep my pregnancy, or maybe it would help like decrease the chances of miscarrying. So I took folic acid, vitamin D3, fish oil, that's really high in omega-3s, and of course prenatal vitamins. So those are the main ones that I took every single night. Now, most nights I would take melatonin and magnesium because both of those combined really would help me sleep. And I'm a firm believer that sleep really does help fertility, because if you have good sleep, then your inflammation overall will go down and it will just help fertility. So do check out that video, I'll link down below, on why I took all those supplements and the purposes behind all of them. And actually, now that I'm sponsored by First Form, you guys can go to First Form and they have all of those supplements. I don't think they have folic acid, but they have all of the other ones that I just told you about. So it will just be a one-stop shop for you guys. But if you go to the First Form website, they have a section for supplements, and they have prenatals, they have omega-3s, they have vitamin D3. So it's so great just to go there and buy all that stuff. And so currently I buy all my supplements through them because it's just so easy to do that. Next thing I did, of course, was move my body every day. It didn't have to necessarily be a workout every day, although I do work out most days, but I wanted to at least get my 10,000 steps in every day. And as you guys know, I have Yuma, my Vizsla, and back then he was a puppy and needed so much exercise that getting my 10,000 steps in a day was like piece of cake. I actually would get like 12,000 to 17,000 steps with him, and I still take him on a walk every day. The walks are getting longer and longer now that Quinn's getting older and he can be in the stroller longer, but going on walks, oh my gosh, is such an underrated form of exercise. If you go on a 30-minute to 60-minute walk and you incorporate hills into your walk, get your heart rate up, it is a workout. So walking, I would do a lot of walking every day, and then if I could get a workout in on top of that, great. But our bodies are made to move. We are made to move every day. And so if we can move every day, it really helps overall health, decrease inflammation, help our mental health, help our stress levels, help our cortisol levels go down. And so moving our bodies really, really will help. And speaking of walking, being outside, I didn't really write this down as one of the things, but I was always outside. And being outside, even if it's raining, because when I did my frozen embryo transfer, like the days leading up to it, it was like always raining here because I live in the Pacific Northwest. But just being outside in the fresh air just really helps overall health. And so if you can be outside or get outside every day, that's gonna really help also. Okay, and then the last thing I did was acupuncture. And you guys who have been around for a while have heard me talk a lot about acupuncture. I swear by acupuncture. I think it really helps. I think it's super effective, especially if you do it over a long period of time and it's incorporated into all the other things you're already doing. I think it just helps overall fertility. And I really do believe, I'm a firm believer in energy points, and that's what acupuncture is all about. Is it literally taps into the different energy points in your body. And for my case, I would do it for fertility. So it taps into the different energy points focused on fertility health. So I'm lucky enough to have gone to an acupuncturist specifically for fertility, and she's actually associated with my fertility clinic. So I had acupuncture every other week with her for a couple of years actually before my transfer. I met her before I started IVF because I was trying to balance my hormones. I was trying to get a period. So if you guys know my infertility journey story, I'll link that video down below too if you're curious on what my infertility story has looked like up until IVF. And a lot of you have probably already seen that video, but I'll link that one down below. I started acupuncture to help balance my hormones, help myself maybe try to ovulate and get a cycle so I wouldn't have to do IVF. Obviously, I still had to do IVF, but I continued to do acupuncture every other week leading up to the transfer. And then I had my transfer, and the very next hour I did acupuncture again to help hopefully the chances of the embryo embedding. So if you're not afraid of needles, although these needles that acupuncturists use these days are super tiny, but if you're definitely afraid of needles and you don't even want to go there on the acupuncture, that's that's okay. But if you're not afraid of needles and you're okay with the thought of acupuncture, I think it really does help. So yeah, I did acupuncture right after my transfer, and then I continue to do acupuncture every other week right after my transfer. And then unfortunately my acupuncturist moved away, and so after I was 10 weeks pregnant, I didn't do acupuncture anymore, which is probably fine. I'm not sure the studies out there that show if acupuncture makes a difference during pregnancy. I know it makes a difference at the end of your pregnancy to help with comfort and maybe try to induce some labor if you're like really at the end and want baby out. So I haven't started up acupuncture again because my acupuncturist isn't here anymore. So I'm looking into other acupuncturists in the area. There's really not a whole lot of them, unfortunately, especially the ones who specialize in fertility health. But my goal is to start acupuncture up again at least every other week leading up to the transfer, so as soon as possible. And then lastly, I tried focusing on my mental health. Now this is something that I really need to work on better. I tend to err on the more anxious side, and when I meditate, when I actually do my meditation for 10 minutes every day, it makes such a big difference on my anxiety levels and my overall mental health. And so highly recommend meditating or doing something for your mental health that you know works. I need to be better at this because I haven't done any meditation for a long time. And now that I'm trying to heal my prolapse on my pelvic floor, managing my pelvic floor symptoms and trying to heal all that, a lot of it has to do with breath work. And so I am trying to get into like meditation and breathing patterns and just focusing on relaxing my body, which then relaxes my mind. And so I'm trying to kind of get into meditation again, or at least like practicing different types of breathing techniques that really help my anxiety and of course help heal my pelvic floor. So highly recommend you look into doing something that if you're a more anxious person like me, because I really do believe that the mind and body are connected. So if you're like very anxious, on edge, you're in fight or flight mode all the time leading up to your transfer, the body does follow what the mind is thinking. And so I know that if we're super stressed and anxious, our chances of getting pregnant are going to be less than if you're relaxed and have like a good state of mind. Okay, that's it. That's what I did. So diet, focusing on fertility friendly foods, supplements, moving my body, and acupuncture. And then of course, like focusing on mental health. So, you know, it's all basic stuff that really we should be doing like on a daily basis already, but hopefully you gain some insight, some encouragement, some motivation to maybe incorporate a couple of these things into your daily health. And hopefully, ultimately, it helps with the transfer and helps you get your little miracle too. If you missed my video from last week, I told you guys our plans on frozen embryo transfer number 2, baby number 2. It's gonna be around this time next year will be our next frozen embryo transfer. And so I wanted to make this video kind of stemming off the last video. I will link that video down below if you didn't see it, but very excited to bring you guys along again, the journey of leading up to our frozen embryo transfer and number 2. I know it's kind of a while away, but it's gonna be here before we know it. Leave a comment down below and let me know what kind of things you guys are doing to prepare for your transfer. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it because it does really help support my channel. I will see you in the next one, and always remember to be kind to yourself.